I just did my first marathon, and this video is for people who hate running, like myself. I don't like being out of breath, I don't like sweating, I don't like dedicating hours of the day to training, and after I just completed my first marathon, I thought, how did we get here? Hi guys, I'm Scott Riley and I own Hi Guys Video LLC, a video production company based in Altoona, Pennsylvania. We fly drones and we do videos for businesses, but this video is about health. And somehow, if you stick around through this long diatribe, I will explain how health relates to running a business. First things first, I ran the marathon in London, Ohio, not to be confused with the place with Big Ben, London, Ohio, because it lined up with the training schedule. This is my first marathon, and my time was 3:54, somewhere around there. My goal when I set out was to complete the marathon in under 4 hours. That is 26.2 miles to people who are unfamiliar. Here's all the celebrities that I beat. And yeah, Ryan Reynolds, I thought when I set out to do this, based on the way I was training and the way I was feeling really good, I really thought I was going to beat Ryan Reynolds. I did not. I first started running in my early 30s. I always hated running. Maybe I'm like you right now. It is not something that is comfortable. It's not something that I ever derived a great deal of satisfaction out of. I remember when we did the national and presidential fitness awards back in high school, I always hated doing the mile. And so I never ran, I never was a runner, and I always thought people that ran long distances were insane. Something happened in my early 30s, and I would call it maturity. I once was a young lad who tried to escape reality and put off responsibilities and never really cared about my health. Just kind of come what may, party, do whatever you want. But then you start to slow down. Towards the end of my 20s, you start to notice that you can't keep your eyes open at the bar and you want to go home and you want to find bed. And so it was end of 20s, early 30s, I decided to start doing things about my health. And one of the long dreaded activities that I never wanted to get involved in was running. And so my first run that I finally decided to do was when we bought a house in Cape Coral, Florida. It had a nice quiet neighborhood with basically a circle that if you ran around the block twice was a mile. And so I ran my first attempt at doing a mile for the first time in my early 30s, having not done so or attempted so since high school. And I didn't complete a mile. I went 0.98. I don't remember what the time was. But I thought I was going to die. And it's hard to say why exactly I kept running, because those first runs were very discouraging. You know, I was running so hard that I was out of breath. You know, everything, head is pounding, heart is pounding, and you feel like you're going to fall over. I started maybe watching some YouTube content talking about running, and then the first book that I read on how to run or giving tips on how to run was Tim Ferriss's The 4-Hour Body. And it's a pretty comprehensive book that talks about a lot of aspects of health. But one section he gets into is running. And so through that, I kind of learned you're not supposed to be going so fast that it's uncomfortable. You're supposed to be running at a pace that you can sustain. And so that was the first introduction I had to improving the way I run. And so that first run, I remember thinking, well, I'll never run more than a mile. And then I was able to complete a mile. And then I'm like, well, this is good enough. I don't need to add extra miles. And I never thought, well, I'll be one of those people that run 5Ks. But sure enough, after doing laps around my tight circle of a neighborhood, I'm like, well, I could go outward and explore what else is around the block. And so that's what I started doing. Go an extra half mile today. And so I got to 1.5. And then I ran 2. And then I added a third. And then you're basically at a 5K, which is one of the most popular standard races that they have around. Now I'm able to run one of these races that people sign up for, turkey trots and whatnot. I really did not think it would come to the point that I would be going any further than that. This was something that I simply thought was, hey, I'm building my cardio. I had smoked cigarettes. I had ignored my health for a couple decades now. If I want to live longer, if I want to have energy, then I'll run 3 miles a couple times a week and get my lungs back into a healthy position. What happened after I started running 3 miles is I discovered what a lot of people describe as the runner's high. When you push past the 3 mile mark, you start to feel something that only runners might be able to describe. It's a state of stress melting away, anxiety leaving, energy, positive thoughts, almost like you can take on the world if you just keep running. And that's what I started to feel. I didn't ever feel that way running under the 3 miles. It's really, I would feel incredible. And I would feel these good vibes during the run. I would feel them shortly after as I'm winding down. And I would feel them throughout the day. I would feel them if I ran in the morning, I would feel these things at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I finally pushed myself one day to go to 13.1, according to the Run app I was using at the time. And I remember feeling unbelievable. I remember thinking, well, I can do this. I got all sorts of self-esteem. I got all sorts of feelings of accomplishment. It was baffling to me within a few years to go from somebody that couldn't run at all to suddenly I had just completed a half marathon on my own. As many times in my journey of running, I said to myself, that's enough. I can't picture myself ever pushing it further than that. Every half marathon I've ever done, I'm gassed. I finish up and I'm glad to be done. I look forward to crossing the finish line and I'm like, that's about as much as I have in the tank. I do not think I could push myself many more miles, let alone doubling that distance and going for the full marathon. I definitely did not think that way, even as recently as 4 months ago. But then it's New Year's of this year, and we got resolutions, spirited, humming atmosphere around us, and what are we going to do to improve our health this year? And my wife's friend, Caitlin, sends me a marathon training schedule, which looks like this. The way the training schedule is, as you can see, you start light. You start with, a couple mile runs, 3 short ones during the week, and then on Saturdays you would have a long run. I didn't know where this was going to lead. I didn't even know if we were actually going to run a marathon. I just knew that, hey, this looked like a good thing to start at the beginning of the year. Let's see where it goes. No intention of actually signing up, no marathon in mind, just let's do the training schedule. A lot of things happened because she sent me that training schedule. One, we were accountable to each other. And so, every day throughout the week, when we'd complete a run, we'd have to send it to each other. And so there's kind of this, I don't want to let the other person down. We said we were going to do this. And so you're accountable to someone else. And I would say that inadvertently or unexpectedly, that really had a psychological sort of reinforcement to me that I was going to do this, because I'm like, well, I got to get my run in. And I'm going to send it to her to let her know that I did it, because I don't want to let her down, I don't want to lie, and I don't want to fail. So psychologically, having a training schedule with someone else and being accountable to somebody else made this not easy, but possible. I always remembered, and one of the reasons I left central Pennsylvania was the cold, bleak, dark winters, depression. I vividly remember feeling claustrophobic, feeling like you spend 4 months escaping the cold. What training for this marathon changed for me was it forced me to go out and run when I didn't want to. And it forced me to face the cold. And it forced me to get outside. And in the early days, in early January, when there wasn't a lot of inertia behind what I was doing, I was like, I hate this. I tried running a few times last year, and I'm bundling up from head to toe. And, once you get out there, your hands are frozen, or you're covering them so much with, gloves and hats and everything that it's so uncomfortable. If you get through the first couple miles of any run, your body warms up. And so my old approach was to bundle up. My new approach was to cover as thinly as possible my skin so that I'm not exposed. And then after mile 2, you don't feel anything. You're running and your blood is pumping and your body is warmed up, your muscles have warmed up, and suddenly you don't notice the cold. And this long period of the winter that used to be really tough to get through psychologically, and with depression and sort of this gloominess and all the gray skies, suddenly I had this vehicle that allowed me to get through January, February, March, the bleak months in central Pennsylvania. How much did I improve with my running during this endeavor? So if you look up at my first run, December 31st, I ran 3 miles, 26:58. And as we scroll forward, you see kind of my runs. Slowly, you're able to run further, faster, more comfortably, sticking to the 3 short runs and 1 long run schedule. My 5K went down when I ran it last year in July. I think my time was like 23 minutes. I just got under the 23-minute mark, and that was my personal best 5K ever. And then I tried it on April 8th, and my 5K time was down to 21 minutes and 20 seconds. So I shaved over a minute and a half off my best 5K time. One of the epiphanies that came out of this whole process, I am a self-employed business owner, which if you are a business owner, you know all of the things you have to do to not just run a business, but to do the work of the business, to do the books of the business, to do the 5 bajillion things that come along with doing the business. This was an enormous time commitment to do this training. And while when I started in January, it felt very inconvenient for that. I had to do a lot of work with the business that I run, and I'm also like trying to figure out, well, when am I going to run? As I started to feel great from the running, the aha moment you start to have is, I feel incredible all the time. What else do I need? There's sort of this hustle culture. There's this idea that you have to bust your ass all the time, put in 9,000 hours in order to be a successful business owner. But I started to see my relationship with the running and the amount of time it took me to do that, not as this burden, but almost like, isn't this the reason that I wanted to have a business? Like, I wanted to be self-employed so that I could live on my own terms, and I wanted to be able to have the freedom to do things and focus on my health. Having my health, that should come above money, at least to me. I started having these little thoughts in my head, like, if I can do an 8-mile run during the day, what else is there? I wrote down, like, if I had to prioritize what was most important in my life, first it's my family, my daughter and my wife, hanging out with my dad, hanging out with my brother, having time to do those things. And then below family, I would say my priority is having my health. Health has to be at the top for me because everything else comes out of it. If you have your health, if you have a positive outlook, if you have energy throughout the day, if you aren't snapping at people, if you aren't annoyed, if you aren't stressed, you're able to conduct business a lot better. You have the patience to deal with clients. You have the clear thinking to sit down and focus on editing. You have the motivation. Last year when I was cloistered up in my house and I had to sit down and edit videos, it's hard to get motivated when you're surrounded by dark skies. You don't have any energy. When you're not healthy and you're not filled with vitality, it's hard to run a business. It's hard to deal with all the stress that comes with running a business. And so for me, I did start seeing the running as essential as the coffee that I drank in the morning, as the opening up, QuickBooks and doing invoices. It's part of the business for me to be healthy. There's a lot of other wonderful things that happened in those long runs. I moved away and I hadn't spent much time reflecting on the city of Altoona, the place that I'm from. And when you run, you kind of have to find places to do it. And so, I'm in Highland Park, I'm running around the Logan Valley Mall, I'm heading out 6th Avenue past the high school, and there's so many neighborhoods and just turns that brought a smile to my face because I had a memory. 2 book recommendations. Born to Run was one of the books that just absolutely blew my mind. Its focus is ultra marathon runners, and it is honestly an incredible read. It'll make you rethink humanity. It'll make you rethink running, exercise, and brings into question all sorts of thoughts on what humans are meant to do biologically. The other one that I highly recommend is Haruki Murakami's What I Talk About When I Talk About Running. And he is a Japanese novelist, and he's not known for writing autobiographical stuff, but when he did write an autobiography, he talked about how running was the same things that I described. It became sort of essential to his creative process. It's something he discovered in his 30s after smoking cigarettes for so long. And the book was written when he was in his 70s, I believe. And so if you're somebody that thinks you're too late to the game, you can't get involved in this, that's the one thing that I've discovered is running is something that you can do well into your golden years. If you're watching it on YouTube, there is a series of buttons that say subscribe, like, comment, bell for notification. All those things, if you are appreciative of these videos that I create, it means the world to me, and it helps me so much if you subscribe, like, comment, hit the bell for notifications. When you do that, I'll give you a little explanation that a lot of people do. It tells YouTube, it tells whatever social media platform you're on that, yes, I liked the comment, yes, I watched it, yes, I engaged with it. And when you do that, they push it out to other people. So it's a free way that you can support me creating more videos. All right, guys, that's today's video. I'm going to go for a run. I'm Scott Riley, and this is Hi Guys Video.